another weekly edition of Alternative 2016, where each week we are interviewing one of our potential Green Party presidential candidates. The Green Party, like the other parties that you're familiar with, can have competing, or I should say alternative, since I don't necessarily like to use the word competing, alternative choices for president. And like any other party, we have primaries, caucuses, and state conventions. The Green Party currently has ballot access in 22 states and is pursuing getting on the ballot in additional states. So in those states with ballot access, as per state law, the state party following state law must have primaries, caucuses, or state conventions, where the rank and file Greens have the opportunity to choose the candidates. So we are doing this so that the Green Party candidates, the Green Party public, and the general public can familiarize themselves with each other. Tonight's guest, commonly called SKCM Curry, but is actually Sedinam Kinamo Christin Moyowasifza Curry. I hope I got that close, because it's important to understand, our name is our identity, not simply just a tag, but it tells people a little bit about who we are. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to SKCM Curry, and she can tell you a little bit about herself, what brought her to the Green Party, what her background is, her personal background, and how she got into this potential presidential race. So take it away, SKCM.
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for even attempting to say my name. I am humbled and I appreciate the effort. Secondly, I am happy that we have this avenue to address first our Green Party members and then the general public. So I appreciate and all the help you've given me over the last month. I'm very humbled and appreciative. Okay, y'all, this is really simple. My full name is Sedinam Kinamo Christin Moyowasifza Curry, and I'm from South Central Los Angeles, not South LA, South Central Los Angeles. I'm one of 20 children to my parents who are no longer with us. They have crossed over into the ancestry. My mother first, Annie Maud Curry Locke, brilliant philosopher, thinker. My father, maybe, you heard me, Maybe Curry. There's Sonny B, maybe. He got all that Southern Crosby, Mississippi stuff happening. So I'm from a solid Black American with African connections through Pan-Africanism and civil and social justice in my village, the Pueblos, which was a housing project, because my father, though he was a veteran and had all the benefits, racism, segregation prohibited him from buying the house he qualified for in Sunnyvale or Sunny something like that, California. So we ended up, like many other folks of color, moving to what was open to my dad, a veteran, to live and move to. And I'm very happy for that experience because there were other veterans, European American, Hispanic American, who also lived in my area for many years. So I grew up in an integrated neighborhood that turned into a Black and Hispanic neighborhood due to urban flight. You asked me about being a Green. I've been a Green since 2002. I might have my dates a little mixed up. I've been driving. As I shared at the presidential forum in St. Louis, Missouri, that I, like many people, supported Green understanding and Green Party mentality. I had even sent money, though I was a registered Democrat, to the party. Illusional, I thought that Al Gore would be someone that cared about the environment, as I always, my parents did too. So I held my nose and voted for him. And because of Lieberman, there's no way I would do that again. And that taught me three big lessons that brought me to the Green Party. At the time, I was living and working in Accra, Ghana, West Africa. I have a 27-year relationship with the Republic, the people, and the culture of Ghana, West Africa. I went there at 26 years old after reading a book, What Color is Your Parachute? But back to my becoming a Green. Very active within the Democratic Party, and I was angered that Al Gore did not get up and start just walking to Washington because he didn't care about ballot access. So that, I think, was 40 then. And then there's an 8-hour time difference between the US in many states and Ghana. So I was up and I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, how come he doesn't feel like I feel? Three things: corporate money, corporate money, corporate money. So after looking at myself and realizing that it's corporate money that dictated his behavior, I committed to joining a party that, one, cared about the environment, two, did not take corporate money, and three, had peace as the core of who they are. So I'm a Californian, so I immediately online signed up to be in the Green Party and rid myself of corporate money in politics forever. And I've been an active Green. Is that enough, Craig, or should I keep talking? Okay. Was at, I joined the Green Party immediately, went to my local, which is the LA Green. They had a South Central Green Party that wasn't very active, so I immediately joined the South Central Green Party and got involved in the Los Angeles Greens, went to gatherings, caucuses, primaries, General Assembly, and then I realized, where's the black folk here? So I'm a co-founder of the Black Caucus, been active in the California's Women Caucus, Platform Committee, campaigns and candidates, very active over all these 15, 17 years. And the reason I'm running right now to seek our party's nomination to be its flag bearer in 2016 is because I had a couple of shocks over the last 15 years. One was Wisconsin's. When I saw the anger, the craziness that went forward because of national politics, I made a commitment to help shape, change, and grow my party, the Green Party. I ran in 2008 as vice president. And the reason I did that is because I realized that our nation is browning. And unless we have a mechanism in place to train, produce, and propagate candidates that would attract our natural base, folks who care about the earth, Native Americans, black folk, Hispanics, everybody that has a rooted culture in the earth, that it wouldn't happen. So I took up being the vice president candidate in 2008 and acted as a campaign manager for the whole team. We rode together, slept together, ran together, did everything, and it was a wonderful green time. So now, as someone who's been trained in national and international politics, as I've participated in the African Greens development and propagation, I know that I'm now ready. And I'd like the next 5 election cycles that instead of sticking a sister of color as our VP at the end of the road, that we come out clearly with who, like I did in 2008, who should be our vice presidential candidates. So like me, they become trained, they understand what our party stands for, they're committed, and they help run our campaigns and candidates for national office early. I can speak to any Green because I've done it. So I prepared myself to be Green, a Green Party leader and an ambassador of the change that I see needs to happen within our party. So that's kind of it for me.
So tell me, you have actually very good, ambitious goals for the party.
Yes.
In why you're running. Can you tell me how you plan to reach out to the diverse communities that aren't yet involved in the Green Party. It's particular interest of me because for those who don't know watching, I'm in New York City and I'm in Brooklyn, and specifically Bushwick, Brooklyn. So my melanin condition is in the minority in this community.
Okay.
So it's very important for many of us Greens around the country, especially some of us in urban areas where we need to reach out to our own communities who are often a very different complexion than we are. How would you message to them? What do you think would bring them over to this, as opposed to, as polls seem to show, communities of color tend to be attracted to Hillary Clinton at the moment. So what would you do?
I'd speak the truth. One, we need a messenger, and one of the reasons I'm running, because I'm a person of color. Two, I'm a woman. Hillary cannot debate me and win. The third thing is, as I said in our presidential forum, we need a message, and that's we are green, and green is earth, and all of us are earth people from those ethnic communities. The third thing is that we need a messenger. I'm an incredible messenger. The other thing is, as I said, we at the presidential forum, it's important that we Greens, it's a strategy that I'd like to use, and then I'll come back to what you asked me specifically. One is that we have to refocus. Two is drive. Three is restore. Four is simplify. And five is deliver. This is a strategy. We have to restore our organizational infrastructure. We've mainly been a volunteer organization. I have a plan to get 7 million American citizens to donate $154 because we have to crack the corporate media. You know, I think we often sing to the choir. The choir knows it. Progressive liberals, we know what to do. But we haven't broken through so that our normal, everyday American citizens hear the message that they already know, and hear a messenger that's comfortable with them in terms of being a citizen. And the living outside of the U.S. for 27 years made me a great American, because it made me understand and question our policies, our procedures, everything about who we are. When you leave who you are, even for 3 months, you have to examine yourself. And I've done that for many years. So I'm really, really clear. Like the question I had to ask myself when Al Gore blew it. What happened? And one of the things that's important for us as Greens who are not representative, our party, I've said it, is unhealthy. And folk didn't agree with me, but I'm saying it. We're unhealthy. So we need to uplift and understand ourselves and what green really means. It's our platform, it's our pillars, it's who we are as human beings. We care, we share, and we multiply. The second point I raised after refocus is drive. We have to have operational excellence. And what I've seen in the 15 years I've been connected is people don't understand that doing things a normal business way is what we need to do. We're too complicated, and I've said this before. That's why the restore. It's about growing our numbers that you talked about, and growing our numbers, meaning having a message and a messenger who connects with those folks. I was the only presidential candidate in any party to attend the national movement for Black Lives Matter. How come only me and our party? Two, I've attended several local organizing committees for the 10-10-15. That's the Justice Our Elves. This is Louis Farrakhan. When we were putting together the global Black Lives Matter, we did an intensive survey of Black folk all over the world, and he ranked highest of who people thought had the moral, the ethic, and the integrity to speak to our needs as Black folks. So why isn't the Democrats, the Republicans, and Libertarians? We were there because I was there. I'm green. Not knowing and connecting with leaders that folk that don't look like the majority of the Green Party right now, don't listen to. I'm going. I'm involved. I volunteered to do some national assignments. I'm working on the international part of this. How come? That's because I'm clear. Rallying is nice, but we got to think and plan and connect with folks. The last thing was simplify. As I mentioned at the presidential forum, we got the CG, the EG, the IG, the CBP, way too much stuff. I believe that, again, doing a survey and asking people, because we overlap each other as Greens in our setup, it was nuts and it's dysfunctional for me. You, it's not okay. So simplifying our structure would help other folks who are not into wiggling and clapping and doing the things we do to understand that this was to be, I think, kind of anti establishment, but we are an established global party. Folk don't even realize we are global Greens. There's not the global Republicans. They're not the global, what do you call them, Democrats. We are a global party. But because our message and our messenger has not been clear to make that connection, we get confused. And again, fortunate for me, I've lived outside of the U.S. for a significant part of my time in Latin America, in Africa, and in Europe. So I have the ability to connect with those cultures because of that. I tease people that I've had to pass for Puerto Rican for 8 years under George Bush. Viva la Yecas, because that blue passport meant death to me, not life. I want to just end on deliver. And I basically highlighted it, that it's about delivering a message through a messenger about we Greens, our pillars, our platform. We're nonviolent and we are peace and earth people. And that is the majority of the citizens now in the US. So I'll just restate the strategy: refocus, drive, simplify, and deliver. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, it sounds like you have a very clear outreach and messaging strategy. I think that's important because oftentimes when people first find out about the Green Party, they're kind of very fuzzy about
Yes.
who we are, and I see there's some typical confusions in that
Yes.
first of all, they don't know how logistically to connect to the Green Party.
Yes.
Where to find the local, or what a local is.
Right.
Because
Right. We've been here, we know.
and one of the others is that often people mistake us for, like, we're like liberal Democrats, so they think.
And I ain't a liberal Democrat. You ain't one either. Yes.
And I think that's an important message. Recently, there was an incident with a perceived very liberal Democratic Party primary candidate,
Right.
and Black Lives Matter, and I think, to me, it clearly says that the people who are involved with Black Lives Matter are not attached to what might be called traditional American white liberalism, even though
In any way.
and I think it's almost, as far as liberal Democrats go, there's a misconception. They don't understand that there's actually a different life experience, that it's not
Yes.
simply, oh well, as the Phil Oakes song, love me, I'm a liberal. And he sung that with the same sarcasm, meaning that
Yes.
that's been the problem with even on the liberal end of the so-called liberal end of the Democratic Party, and why, part of the reason why they fail. So thinking about that, how would you approach such communities, whether it's Black Lives Matter or the people who aren't even connected to that but are aware of it? When they say, well, why would we vote for the Green Party when we can vote for the Democrat. I'll preface this with
Okay.
someone. Someone I know, one of our candidates in Brooklyn, James Lane,
Yes.
who as you know is a person of color,
Yes.
ran for Congress in the district that Eric Garner was killed in,
Right.
and the Republican opponent was the district attorney who conveniently failed to get the indictment for the police
Right.
officers involved,
Right.
and yet when he spoke to a group of people that were predominantly more melanin, more melanin
Then himself.
than they asked, well, why should we vote for you? Won't that cost the Democrat the election? And ironically, the Democrat was very much a law and order conservative Democrat,
Okay.
and yet they were still attached to the illusion of the Democratic Party. So that's a really difficult challenge. So I'm going to challenge you with that
I
question.
disagree with you. I think you're underestimating people's understanding of politics, and that's why one of the big things I'm doing is to come up with a strategy to get 7 million Americans to give us $154, and it's message and messaging. And we have to go after corporate media. Do we want them to have that money? No. But if we don't have someone who's clear about those things, that's what happens. So folk not naive. You know, black folks use church, the mosque as a political and civil. European Americans traditionally don't. The right wing has a small conundrum of folks who run with Jesus like Jesus really participates in their craziness. So I think just pointing those things out, I saw, this is a bit funny. There was a pro Confederate flag toting KKK member. Well, two things. He had on full boo, for us, by us, tennis shoes. Ignorant. Secondly, there was a black American officer, who helped a KK guy who had a heart attack. Those images speak volumes to black folk. We're not stupid. And I think because it's not clear, our message and our messenger, when we get those two things, because we have a clear understanding, nonviolence, we all know the 10 key values, but it's not being put out there. And those are things I live by. I grew up with that. I'm from the housing project. I benefited from Head Start. I'm a government champion baby. I've done all of that. And I went to, public school. So those are things about me that connect with the majority. I have members of my family incarcerated. I too, on the way to the St. Louis presidential forum, I was pulled over by an Oklahoma Highway Patrol. I went to college because I had a question. One question. How come every one of my 10 brothers have been stopped, arrested, or harassed by police? I have a degree in criminology. I know my own constituency. My second degree is in Black American Studies. So as a social scientist, these are not major questions. Again, it's simple. Message and messenger. We have not had a clear message and messenger for a while, and it's time to do that. And because I've been green for so long, I know how to navigate our party. And if you realize, I said we have to simplify. Some of our things are dysfunctional and we have to change. Fortunately for me, I was so committed to not corporate money, I waved through the madness to get an understanding of what a green, in our state, California, has a majority of black women who vote for us as Greens. It's black women looking like me and Queen Khalifa's named after a state who vote for us. So that I disagree with you. We just haven't done well with quantifying who votes for us, asking them how come they vote, and what would make them get others to vote for us. And those two questions I've answered for you.
So you mentioned as part of your strategy, simplify. Now, as you know, as anybody who's active in the Green Party knows, it's very much a bit of a tangled web, and
Yes.
I think that is part of our issue with engagement and retention
Teach.
of the people
Teach.
who might support us or who do
Right.
initially, and then kind of run into this spider web, a sticky spider web, and then pull themselves away from it. What would you do to simplify, to make the party more effective? What?
One, I'd fundraise so that we can hire full-time staff. We need 8 full-time staff to just do boom, 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 boom. Volunteers is great for get out the vote and to survey and ask what's going on. We are a global party. We got to start acting like one. I would also hire 5 other people to focus on outreach for folks of color, and then also the LGBT community, as well as any other of our natural constituencies. They have to have someone that understands, knows how to outreach and listen. We have not been very good at listening. Over these 15 years I've been involved, we've had several like racism awareness workshops. I wrote Tim Wise and I asked him if he could help me come up with a 20-year plan to address white privilege. It happens within our party, big time. But folks, because they're liberal, haven't disassociated themselves because it's a cultural understanding. I've been blown away by it all these years, but the good thing about our party is we are human beings, and we have a care, a love, and a commitment to our planet. So that underlying foundation for the majority of Greens I've met gives me the gumption to still run and to be involved. I've had a wonderful time as a Green. It's been more fun and enlightening and friendship building than any other thing I've done for like the last 20 years. So I know we can do it. It's just we need someone to speak truth, to be honest, to hug love, and we need to heal and move past ourselves. I mentioned in the presidential forum, I looked out. In 30 to 35 years, we'll be gone. What are we doing to ensure these 10 key values and our pillars stay with us? So my goal when I ran in 2008 as VP was to start training us to get folks of color to run as VP early on so that they are prepared to lead. And that's what we're not doing. One of the issues that got me motivated to help with Cynthia McKinney being our party was having Uncle Ralph, who I love and I owe many lives, he saved because of his incredible work with, car safety, that we can't not have a perpetual candidate. We need to have candidates from 5 different major ethnic groups. So over the next 5 terms, we grow our base. And having the same person run over and over that don't look like those folks is unhealthy and it's dangerous. And I've set a good path. If you talk to anybody that was a part of the '08, ask them the role I played. And that's every vice presidential candidate needs to do that so they're not starting from scratch. And that we have 5 people lined up for the next 5 cycles that can compete and win. It would be more than that because right now there's 5 of us, right? Competing. All of us should name a vice president, and that person should come up now and start learning. So now we have 25 people that can compete for the next 5 times. And that's stick a person of color, a sister of color at the end. I want to break that cycle. We've done it and it's bad. I think they did he's gone on. He did the avocado declarations. He's from my
Peter
state.
Camejo.
Yeah, I think he picked Matt Gonzalez, who I helped do voter fraud for. But how come Matt is not up here now? How come we can't start from scratch or keep repeating candidates?
It's our retention issue again.
And that's the issue. That is the issue. So my thinking when I ran in '08 was to start that process, to start it. Then I'm running one time, and I'm running to win. I'm not running to be a VP. I'm running to win and it's based on what I know as a thinker, a planner, and a good green.
Uh, yeah, there's a important factor in the diversity of our candidates. I don't I
Yes.
mean throughout. That includes our congressional and Senate candidates also.
City, state, yes, we have to, because our nation is browning.
Yeah.
So if we're not browning as a party, we're joking or a social club.
One of the risks we end up falling into, is in thinking of political history, is the Socialist Party
Okay.
would run for many years if it was Eugene Debs
Right.
over and over again.
And
Excuse me, I
Bless you,
sneezed
bless
on the
you.
truth. And, and
dangerous.
and I think it's a problem when a party keeps running the same person over and over
It's
again, because
dangerous and it's unhealthy. I'm
get,
saying those two words out loud and clear.
and that goes through for any number of our higher offices, because what you end up having is savior syndrome, where,
Dynasties. I don't.
yeah,
I couldn't imagine who would vote for another Bush and another Clinton. We're not a monarchy. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
And we end up getting the same, and it's funny, ironic that's happening in both the Titanic parties, that they're now they're recycling the same candidates and the same families over and over again, and that's
Craig,
a big problem.
It's simple. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. You were saying.
Well, that's a big problem in terms of having the same people run over and over again, because it no longer is the party as a collective, but it becomes the individual as savior, and then of course when the savior eventually stops running, everything dissipates, and that's sort of what happened with the Socialist Party. They had Debs and then Norman Thomas a few times, and then they went from a long-standing big alternative party to almost nothing,
Non-existent.
Yep, and we have to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yes.
In the Green Party.
I wanted to point out something. If you remember, with the Democrats, when Hillary and Obama ran in, was that 2008? She presented herself as entitled, and that's the white privilege that has happened again. It's happening in our party right now, and it's happening with the Bush and the Clinton again. Folk tired of that, really tired of it. And there was a survey. I was listening to Jon Stewart a bit ago, and he talked about people are tired of them. So I know with my fresh energy, my great charisma, and the plan and strategy to grow first our party and to make sure we're a solid political base so that we can hold all the new party members we're going to be growing over the next 11 months before our annual conference in July.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things I see in terms of the challenges in connecting the issues with different aspects of the populace and bringing them together, because we've become a very atomized and fragmented
nation.
Yeah, on issue work, so that you have people addressing one or the other. One thing that I saw recently, that there were people for those of you who don't follow the animal rights movement, although it's gotten pretty big, is the killing of Cecil the lion,
right,
in Zimbabwe. Now the interesting thing is I saw a couple of people who were involved with Black Lives Matter who expressed concern that there was so much interest in a lion and not the people who were being abused and killed by the police, who black people who die on the streets or die in prison. And I mentioned, I said, so here we have something that is precious to a black nation, Zimbabwe, and once again, white man with his money comes in his privilege and kills something that's important to an African nation. And I said, that's institutional racism all over
Clearly.
again, just expressed in a different way. But it's the white person who feels he's immune, just as the cops are, and can go in and kill something that is important, because the nation was exploited economically. That somebody could go in with their money and just buy their way in and kill something that was important to that country. And what happened is a bunch of people who were into animal rights activism, and people who were into who were working on the Black Lives Matter issues kind of connected and said, institutional racism expresses itself in many different ways.
Yes.
And one of the challenges we have as Greens is trying to connect all these different things, that there are common problems that run through. It happens in environmental and ecological issues. I know in Brooklyn, for many years, it was a big deal because when we were first starting out as the Greens, and trying to work with communities of color, they would say, "Well, you're just a bunch of white environmentalists." And I responded. I said, "Whose neighborhoods are the incinerators and the waste transfer stations dumped in, and where the asthma rates are as a result of that?" I said, "It's the ecological, environmental issues, racism, the economics. They are really, there are connections to all of them." And so what? Tell me how you.
This is not complicated. It's a social science issue. 2 points. One, next year in Ghana, West Africa, we're going to have globally Black Lives Matter. So far, we've identified 14 issues that everybody black on the planet faces. It's that simple. Out of those 13 of them, everybody else also faces, because it's about the haves and the have-nots. It's the money and the money with folks without money. So it's about being honest. We have to, one of the reasons we're launching our campaign for my presidential run in November in Ghana is to highlight that very point. Because of the falseness of whiteness, folks forget that it's about rich people, normal people, and then poor people. Everybody but rich people deal with the same major issues, except maybe 2 or 3 that are based in our nation's wrongful kidnap and enslavement of black folk. And the bigger thing in some way is them taking over someone else's land. There was a funny post, I don't know if you posted or who it was, on Facebook. Wish I had it, but it's a beautiful, statuesque Native American king, and he's saying the only illegal people are those folks, the Europeans. They liked us because we didn't ask to be here. We were kidnapped, robbed, and raped and got here. So that kind of understanding about clarity of consciousness, about speaking the truth, and that's where I am at 50 years old. If it's not real, it's a lie. So just speaking the truth to folks, that we have more in common with each other than the billionaires have with us. We all work, we all pay taxes. They don't work and they don't pay taxes. So the 99% movement, it existed for a reason, and it was our government and rich folk that ended that. That was a mixture of all of us citizens against the 1%. And we have to stay there. So I think part of it is, that's why I spoke with Tim Wise, or I wrote him to ask him to help me deal with white privilege, because the whiteness has skewed the minds of a lot of our European American brothers and sisters, believe that they have a level of specialness, and they don't. It's just misconstrued, very misconstrued. And look at all these Confederate, racist, crazy, European Americans run around. This ain't your land. So if they done a DNA test to everybody, they'll realize that they're not connected here. So this is about truth telling right now for me. It's that simple. I could share a little example.
Go ahead.
I was coming back from France, and there was a European American where they check your passports and stuff, and he was harassing this I'm sure she was from Kerala, but she was an Indian. She was there with her baby, and the baby was really miserable. So after 10 minutes of this, I walked over and said, "Are you going to keep her or not? Do you know the three of us all are not billionaires, right? We have to go through this because we're not. But if we were, you wouldn't be over there checking his ID like you're checking ours. Yes or no?" He was stunned. I said, "I'm too old to keep standing in this line watching you harass somebody. Can you just stop? Either you're going to take her or you're not." He stamped her and she moved on. And she threw me a kiss. We are human beings. Enough. It's the billionaires we need to be mad at, not us. So I think just being honest with each other, enough of that crap.
So let me ask you, because this is one of the conundrums we face politically is why are so many people voting for the candidates funded by the billionaires? Why are they working? Why are people voting against their own interests?
This is simple. Message and messenger. So the fifth time I'm saying this, we have to appeal to 7 million of our fellow citizens and ask them to invest $154 so that we can crack open corporate media. Our big issue is we have not cracked open corporate media. They don't know we exist, but they know about green. They know about Earth Day. They know about carbon emissions. They know about global warming. No one now, except the idiots, and they might have, some mental issues, know that climate change is real. Who brought that about? We Greens. People will reward us for standing out and standing up when it wasn't popular. Look at our candidates. I don't know if you were at the presidential forum, but Kent Mesplay, he is a substantial climate person. He's a degreed. Look at Daryl with Judy Berry. These folks stood up, got hurt by the government, came back. Look at William, theorist, brilliant man, who has with the United Citizens Party. We all have those histories of activism. People care and value, because we could have all just gone along with it, but we have stood up, and our lives are testament, like yours, to what could be and what can be. They just need to hear us. And that 13th time, I can request with ease 7 million of my fellow citizens to invest $154 so we can hit every major newspaper, break into having our own ads. This is all about message and messenger. It's not that complicated. And people, look at the GoFund. They're funding all kinds of, things that people care about, because we live with each other every day, not with our billionaires. So it's not that complicated. I wanted to mention something that I also heard when I was driving back, that there was a psychologist that talked about the conflict that even though all these folks stood up for this lion, this beautiful lion, they still eat meat every day. So we as human beings have more than that as a contradiction to deal with. But when we know that eating this kind of thing hurts the rainforest, we'll eat less. People are demanding organic. So we just haven't captured the public's attention because we haven't broken through corporate media, and we haven't had an effective messenger. It's not that complicated. It's just not. Remember George Lakoff's book, Speaking to an Elephant? Oh, things are not that difficult. They're just not. Just not that difficult. And the changes, the one with Iraq, people are not hearing the AIPAC yell and scream. So our president moved forward. The second thing is Cuba. Things are ripe for a green presidency. We can paint the White House green in 2016. SKCM 16. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Should I sing my song now?
I one then you'll get to sing your song, which I've heard before, and I think it's
great. You sang it with me in '08.
Yep. I was involved in the media.
I know.
As you know.
Starlene and Scott.
Somebody from our chat while we're doing this suggests we should budget out what it would really cost to run through a brand awareness campaign as if we actually had the money.
We do have it.
And it says, because we don't actually need to outspend the establishment parties. And I just want to mention that because as someone first of all, I work in television professionally, and
Yes.
I've worked in politics, in media, as an assistant editor and an editor for various campaigns, and a media buyer also. And this is for the major
Okay.
parties also. I mean, I got my start as an assistant editor working for Roger Ailes of all the evil
Yes.
ones, so I got to see how that side works. But I'm a fan of Bill Hillsman of Northwoods Advertising, and
Yes.
he made a comment in his book Run the Other Way that
Right.
you as the person in the chat room says, you don't need to outspend your opponent. In fact, there's so much wasteful spending in politics because so much of it is really just patronage spending that you could probably win on spending like 1/6 of the money. In other words, your opponent can outspend you by sixfold, and you should still be able to win if you have
Yes.
an engaging message.
Yes.
And that's an important thing when you talk about uh, 7 million Americans and $154. It would be enough.
More than enough. But again, if you remember, mine was not all about spending. It was just, doing maybe one big ad out, same day, knock it. And then secondly, hire those 8 people to run our national office and hiring the 5 people full time to do outreach directly. And that's not necessarily for our campaign, which would be great that they push whoever wins, but it's building our party. This is beyond this. This is now creating a solid global party that can compete anywhere in the world with folks who take corporate money. This is people funded power. That's what I'm talking about. And again, I'm saying the next 5 cycles, we need to have at least 25 people geared to take my spot as our presidential nominee when I win it in July 2016. Yeah, this is not just about spending money. It's about building a solid base and moving and funding it so that we are there for the next 20 years. Solid.
Yeah, I like being a sports fan and baseball in particular, and having worked in that profession as a chief engineer in
Okay.
Major League Baseball. I like to think of the Green Party much like an expansion team
Yes.
in a major league. And my favorite analogy, given where I'm from, is the New York Mets, 1962. And what's key is building that farm team. You mentioned
Yes.
having 20. You have to build the depth. And
Yes.
when you start out, I mean, the Mets in '62 did not have the kind of money that the Yankees had in '62,
Clearly.
which were in the midst of their perennial World Series championships at that point.
Yes.
And that the Mets went from the worst team in baseball, but they were in the big leagues. They got their backsides whooped time after time, but they built the farm system so that by 7 years later, they were the world champs. They went
Now
from
you
the-
got me now.
and
You got it
that's-
now. And I was the first minor leaguer. I started in 2008. I paid my dues. I helped build the party. Do you remember the stage? All of us got on that stage and hugged. Republican Democrats don't do that. And I want to keep that running. I want to keep it running. Yes, for the next 5 election cycles. Because after we are there in 2016, we got to keep a green coming to keep the fundamental basis. And our party has to have solid professionals helping to make sure we care for our base. And keep good ears to the ground.
So you were going to I guess it was sing a song, or you had a message
Yes.
to deliver. So
This is really simple.
the stage is yours.
Paint the White House
Yes,
green. That's all it is. Paint a White House
Yes,
green. Are y'all listening? No. Paint the White House green.
Green.
Won't you help me to paint the White House green? Is that simple? It is that simple. We got to paint it. Beyond the solar panels we're going to change the color. It's changing the color. Our whole world has to be green so that we can sustain our lives. I've been saddened since 1945. Our species has had the ability to kill us all off. That's not something no one should be proud of. But let's say by 2016, we have a committed commander in chief to change our economy and who has created a green path for our nation and the world to survive as a species and all our other cousins, brothers, and sister animals here. We cannot allow stupidity to reign anymore. We can't. We can't afford it.
Yeah, we're in sort of we're as in civilization, although I hate to use the word civilization because if we were really civilized, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Like the Native Americans,
yeah.
They were civil.
Yeah.
Yes.
We as a species are in a death march and taking a good part of every other being, sentient and otherwise, with us.
It's inhumane and crazy.
And we still have people who are talking as if there's a lesser evil, and they don't think there's a lesser form of extinction. If you ain't here, you're gone.
Done.
And we're facing that. There was a big event in New York a few days ago where a group of activists who were documentarians, they projected over 100 endangered species on the side of the Empire State Building. It was about 40 stories.
I saw that. That was beautiful. I highlighted it on my Facebook page. Yes.
I saw them. They were in New York last year, and I saw them speak. And the guys who worked on the documentary, and he said, inherently, one of them was a filmmaker, but the rest of them were really activists. And he said, as far as messaging, the problem is he felt no matter how great a movie they did, it just wasn't going to reach enough people. So he said they were thinking of spectacular events that were more direct than filmmaking, that could reach millions of people. And he said sometimes legal, and he said sometimes not. He said they will use direct action to get the message across.
Evolution.
Yeah, the film that they just completed is called Racing Extinction, and it is not a warning of what may be. It is clearly the message is we are in the midst of the sixth grade extinction. It's already here and it's already happening, and we don't have that much time to turn it around. So there's no lesser in this extinction. It's massive. The rate, and it's the rate of species that are becoming extinct are so rapid.
Yes.
And it's only happened 5 other times in our history, and each one was devastating.
Right.
And yet, if you say that, the public says, "Well, you're being alarmist." And meanwhile, you got people in like Texas, it's 100 degrees day after day. California has a drought. How bad does it have to get? I mean, it's not even academic. It's like people go outside and they melt. It's hot.
It's just, for me, again, it's about breaking through at the same time as a shock, kind of a shock, like they're speaking of. It has to be some way. Imagine let's get a date. August 1st, every major newspaper, every major television station and radio carries that same message at one time. Everybody gonna hear it, as well as we broadcast this on satellite to the whole world. Again, we're a global party, so we can all speak the same words the same time. It's just we have to claim it, name it, and do it. And that's what I'm willing to do. Do you remember in the 60s when they had the commercial, the little girl, and then the explosion? I've never forgotten that.
Spot,
vote, but I've never forgotten.
I remember that too. I'm old enough.
An image is worth, we know that we're in media. So I believe because of that, And because, as I heard on the Jon Stewart show just maybe half an hour ago, folk are tired. And look, in our own nation, a third of the folks don't vote.
Yeah.
That's because they don't have a reason to. Let's give them one in 2016. Let's give them one to be green.
Yeah, and that third is often up to 50%, and it's ironic. I don't want to keep using the funny because it's actually sad. It's ironic that in the Democratic Party that so many people are wedded to, the primary turnouts in that party are so abysmal. New York, in its Democratic gubernatorial primary, where there was not only a very progressive candidate running against a Democrat so conservative, Andrew Cuomo, who may as well have been a Republican.
Right, I agree.
And the turnout in that primary, which could have changed the direction of the state, the turnout was 10%. This is on a statewide election. This isn't a little...
We're singing to the choir. The reason I'm running is message and messenger, and getting folks to see and know it. So that's our job, and that's our goal, and that's our campaign, that we'll do that. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned to you, I'm proposing a 5 regional series debates of the 5 of us who are Green Party potential flag bearers. So in the major cities, so we can do ballot access, do fundraising, and build our base. So those are the kind of things I'm committed and wedded to grow it. We had a very successful debate in Northern California in 2008. Folk paid to see. People are willing to help. People are willing. It's just having a structured, organized, and orchestrated way to bring folk home to the Green Party, because they're there. It's just pulling them in. The 99% movement, this animal rights, the gay marriage folk, Black Lives Matter, globally Black Lives Matter. We're heading that way. We are heading. And again, our campaign is pushing the green path. So before we get to a Green Deal, we have a way to, one, my focus right now is our party, so that when folks do join, they're not lost, as we know can happen. And then we move forward to building our nation. But our party has to be solid with professionals. We have to reach out to every one of our base communities, people who care about sacred earth, our mother. Everybody does. And then educate the ignorant folk who don't understand that this is not their land. We are on someone's land, and to deal with the atrocities that we've committed against our government. Not me, I wasn't here against against Native Americans, and also the rape and kidnap of Black folks. On that labor, we've built our economy. We got to do reparations. There's work to do, real work to do. I am really thankful for your time.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I know you'll be back again, because I think there's going to be a big push to do those series of debates.
Yes.
Since we have a diverse group of candidates coming from expressing greenness in different ways.
Yes, very different.
And I think that's important, because rather than being a monolith, we are whatever the opposite of monolith, diversity. It's funny, we were talking about party. If we needed a party logo, animal, we were saying mascot. I was kiddingly said our animal mascot should be a paramecium, because we're unicellular.
Interesting.
I mean, we really aren't unicellular. That's the point. And I think people need to see that there's a lot to being green. There's a lot of different ways to express it, and that's what we're getting with 5 candidates. So in one sense, I would say we're not picking, the flag bearers. That you're all flag bearers. We have a lot of flags in this party, and people need to see them all.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be one of the 3 Californians seeking our party's nomination, and I'm proud. I am so happy with the other folk there. I'm excited. If you noticed, one of my friends was teasing me that you were about to hug Daryl and Ken. I was so happy. And William, I was so happy with the conversation, the level of intellect that we have as a group. I'm happy. Very, very happy. We have to grow our party. We have to grow our party.
Well, thank you for being with us tonight. We'll be hearing from you again.
Okay.
And I want to remind the people who are watching this video, live or recorded, that your participation in the Green Party is vital, because we have 5 very interesting candidates. We have 5 very interesting candidates. You will have the opportunity to participate in the selection process, and it's also important to understand that while inevitably one will be nominated for president and there will be a vice presidential candidate, of course, that none of these candidates go away if the party is properly structured, because we all keep going as messengers. So it's vital for the grassroots to participate in this process. We are not a monolith. We are a diverse group. We're a multilith. We are a vortex rather than singular. So each one of you out there needs to get other people to watch these videos, to get involved in your state parties, to talk to your activist friends and get them interested in the Green Party, because there's an interesting process for them to watch and participate in. Yep. In the Green Party, politics is not a passive sport. It's a grassroots participatory democracy. So with that, I'm going to say good night, and thank you for being here, SKCM. Oh, and I want you to, it's very important for you to do one more thing. Again, your name, it's important.
Say my name. It's such a cool name. Sedinam, the ancestors have called. Kinamo, versatility and adaptable. Christin, Moyowasifza, open heart of the open people. Curry, Scottish, so I'll say it alone. Sedinam, Kinamo, Christian, Moyowasifza Curry, 2016 President. Peace and power.
Thank you very much, and everyone, have a good night. Bye.